say that was the best and worst decision I've ever made. It's just the perception of it is, oh, Jacob's made it. He's made it. And I'm like, and people have told me that in my face. I'm like, and I say it politely, but don't assign me my final destination.
Welcome to the Zero Quit Podcast, where we bring you inside the minds of elite athletes, business owners, and other guests. I'm your host, Covington, and through these conversations, you'll hear practical advice and effective strategies for building a more resilient mind. If you enjoy listening, be sure to subscribe to the show and share it with a friend. All right, guys, welcome to the podcast. Today we have on Mr. Jakob Davis, who is the owner of the nutrition store in Spartanburg, North Carolina, and also in Greenville, North Carolina. That's the second one, right? Spartanburg is the first?
Yes. Yeah. So Greenville is our, I guess, it's our outpost. I kind of always had the view of calling it our satellite location, but it is definitely a second location through and through. So about 30 minutes south of Spartanburg. And
you guys just hit 4-year anniversary, right?
We did, man. Yeah, it was a blast. We held a huge celebration. Actually, shut down the Greenville store for the day and had out, well over 200 people in the parking lot of our Spartanburg location. So it was awesome, dude. Just a good time.
And I was gonna say the biggest thing that I've noticed and what drew me to you and how I learned about you through Awesome is just all about community and just having fun. Because I feel like what the nutrition store stands to me is obviously you guys provide a lot of information, knowledge, and we can get to that in a little bit with the content you create. But the biggest thing is just from the Christmas bangers to the anniversary parties, it's all about fun, community. People will drive, hours just to fucking show up to this party and just to, hang out. And It's just like camaraderie that you've created, which I think is what's special about small business and about stores like yours.
Thanks, man. Thank you. I think that opening a second location has really taught me that over the last year about what we're meant to be and what we're going to manifest into, because it is hard to maintain that same camaraderie and family community spread out across 20 locations, and even at 2 locations we've started to notice that it's not like anything's changed or worse. It's just it's more of a challenge to keep the family and the community tight knit and on the same page. But
it's hard to make it the exact same. You can't copy and paste the same thing from one place to another. And it's the same thing with the gym. I think I was reading a book about it. Was basically, it's different cultures, different people over there, and that's where coming into who you hire, which I think you've obviously surrounded yourself with 2 guys that live and breathe TNS and understand what you expect. So it helps when you already kind of have those guys there than trying to find employees and teach them the values and the vibe. But so the biggest thing that draws, do you have something to say about it?
No, I was just gonna say, you can create systems for a business, but you can't create soul for the business. So and that's something that heartbeat within it. But yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, but the biggest thing I think that caught my eye about like just you and your business that relates to that community is the content you create. So what was it like when you were first creating content? If people haven't checked out your Instagram, what is the Instagram for the store? Is it TNS or?
So I wish. I've tried to buy that one like 10 times and the dude will not respond to me. But so it's just the Nutrition Store LLC. Long word, but if if you're in the Southeast and you type in on Instagram the Nut, we have that locked down. Yeah, so we're good. But try and expand that to the country. We'll see.
Yeah. So the Nutrition Store LLC on Instagram. But anyway, the content you guys create, it's a lot of fun stuff. It's goofy, it's informative, and all that. So what really drove you, I guess, to start making content? What were the first few things you made, and what were people's reaction to it?
Oh, dude, that's so. I'm gonna have to upload along with the video footage of my original handheld videos just for reference. But when I started, man, I didn't have many customers. I didn't have much going on. I was lucky to have connections with all of the distributors and vendors that I needed to. But when there's nobody coming in the store, there's no ordering. There's no, other little things. So I'm like, all right, well, I've always been good on camera. I'm just going to pick up my phone and make something funny today, or teach somebody something that they didn't know. And so at first, it became immediately it became an addiction. Just to making videos, and I would post something every day, and we still do. At first, I would say the reaction I got from those around me and those I grew up with was like, oh, Jacob just sits in the back of the store and makes his, goofy little videos.
Goofy videos, yeah.
Yeah, and they would laugh at him because they were, obviously they were funny to a certain extent, but also to me it was just really, for one, a way to kill time, and also I'm like, I've been listening to Andy Frisella tell me to provide value to people, but how do I provide value to people if they're not in my store in front of me? And I always had this vendetta against email marketing, which I've changed my views since then. But I'm like, all right, I'm just going to go all in on Instagram and make videos. Because at the time, my theory was that Instagram was going to pivot to become more like YouTube. And I was wrong, but still using that and sticking to my guns.
In a way.
Yeah, and it's like, I was like, all right, well, so they had IGTV at the time. That was their big release, and so I'm like, we're gonna lean into this. We created all the playlists,
I remember that.
The structure, but even looking back on it, it was worth it because still to this day, it's compounded. So,
well, some people did good with IGTV. It was just hard to get people because it's like, do you film vertically? Do you film horizontal and have people flip their phone? And but the funny thing is, like, content is just becoming, it is more video, but it's also more short form. So like Reels right now, Instagram is pushing those so hard, which I get, but I don't know about you. My photo content that used to do it's all relative, but let's say I used to get 300 to 400 likes a photo. I get like 100 now, and I have way more followers. But it's just because Instagram is not pushing photos at all. It's only giving you like engagement if you send out Reels, which I get. And then it seems to me too that Reels, the shorter almost the better. Like if you're in that like 5 to 10 at most 15-second sweet spot. And it's funny because Reels just turned into Vine basically.
Yep, exactly, man. I think that they were so reactive in how they responded to TikTok's expansion and growth that I think it's a good thing. But at the same time, it is shortening our attention spans as a society. I mean, I think TikTok and Instagram, because the type of content I prefer to create is not typically what I create.
The same way. Yeah.
Sitting down with, because we have a group in the Upstate that I created called the Upstate Coalition. So a lot of, professionals, business owners, doctors, I'll interview them. And I'm like, how do I condense this much valuable information down to 30 seconds? Or 15 seconds. So it does become difficult, but we find ways.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I feel like I get more out of a like well thought out, meaningful caption and like an inspiring photo than like a goofy like redone audio that it's trending and things like that. But
exactly,
it's why I try and post like a mix of photos that I feel like are exciting and about what I'm doing. And then I also have to show, it's like a mix. It's like you post for you, but then you're also posting because you need engagement, because without engagement and an audience, you're just posting into the wind, right?
Yep,
so
exactly.
A little bit of that.
Exactly, man. And that's, one thing, I was going to say, sorry to cut you off.
No.
One thing I've noticed though, Instagram, since we've done nothing but videos since day one, there's not a single picture post on the Nutrition Source page. That's mine. I might accept a collaborator post of a photo, but since we started with video, and since our video tends to kind of go longer than 60 seconds, I've noticed Instagram doesn't give us, like, it doesn't help us with the algorithm at all, making non-stop video content. There's like a threshold that they don't want you to pass.
It's just well, I'll say this. YouTube, especially speaking to one of my close friends that I've known forever, and he edits he used to have a YouTube channel, 100K. He's now just an editor for this guy. I don't know if you ever heard of Ryan Trahan. He has like 8 million, big YouTuber. But point is, he does a lot of studying as far as like the algorithm with YouTube, right? And there's somewhat of a formula that you can figure out with what works with thumbnails and titles and videos and content, right? Instagram's all over the place, dude. And they change it all the time to what works and what doesn't, that you have to like stay with the trend. So let's say you post workout content. Well, for years, you'd post a video, maybe like swipe a carousel video of each exercise, right? And then you could do an IGTV, and then you have to follow that. Now it's Reels. You're like posting all your exercises in 30 seconds. Exactly. And so it just gets hard to catch up depending on what content you make. So for your example, you made longer form content, informative. Now you try to condense that. It's hard to do.
That's true.
So I want to dive into TNS overall because I thought, especially for the people that aren't familiar with the story, they've gotten a little bit of a feel for, okay, what it's about and things like that. But as far as TNS, How did you, especially what you mentioned, you knew some distributors and companies. How did you get started with supplements, and what made you want to open up a store?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. Growing up, I'll kind of give my I guess
Go for it, dude.
repetitive backstory.
Yeah.
I started bodybuilding at 14. I was chubby. I was the chubby kid, and I really didn't like just see a bodybuilder and fall in love. My dad got me a pull-up bar for Christmas one year, and we mounted it in my door to my bedroom. And
Yep.
I got on this kick where I wanted to start running, and I would jog in my neighborhood, and I wanted to lose some of the pounds. But I made a challenge to myself every day when I'd go in my room to try to do one more pull-up, and try to do as many as I could. And that kind of evolved into the gym, and go through high school, go into places like GNC, and buying things I really didn't need, buying things that really were not serving to help me in any way. I kind of developed a resentment for supplements as I delved more into dietetics, and that was my original path in school. Ended up actually changing over to exercise science, kinesiology, halfway through, realizing that the dietetics path was not. I didn't want to work in a clinical setting. I wanted to. I'm more of a talker. I'm more of an in-person. Let's deal with the public, work with them kind of guy. So. I still, to this day, or not to this day, that point in time, I did not like supplements, just because the regurgitated mantra, and
Well, dude, I have a funny GNC story, and maybe you have a funny GNC story too. So when I was getting into bodybuilding, 14, about the same time, I was telling my dad, I was like, I have to get Optimum Gold Standard Whey. I was like, this is what it says on bodybuilding.com. I was like, that's the best protein. I want to get muscle, and if that's what the best protein is, I need to take that shit. So, and he had been getting me some muscle milks like every dad, right? And so I was like, Dad, we're going to GNC, we're getting Optimum, Whey. So go there, getting the gold standard, and first of all, I walk in there, and the GNC guy, they're always kind of up your ass. They want to sell you something. Yep. And the guy, he starts harping on to my dad and I about how Optimum Gold Standard has mercury and contents in it, and it's gonna it might cause poison, or there's a lawsuit about it, and that GNC Whey, their sustained blend is better, and blah blah blah. So we don't buy into the shit, thank God.
Right.
So buy the Gold Standard Whey, and and come to find out years later, my dad, he was working for a company that basically builds machines to help package and ship out Optimum. Right. Okay. But the funny thing is the company that makes Optimum also makes GNC Whey. It's the same shit, right? As most brands are all made at the same facility, right? And so it's funny that they say all this other shit. GNC workers, it's such a meme,
Oh, dude, and I mean, not to mention it'll switch depending on the month you go in there.
Yeah.
I remember going in, and my first protein I ever bought myself with my own money was Promacil. And it was actually the owners of Optimum sold their company to Glambia, and then they started Rivalus. Well, the guy at GNC convinced me this was the only way that I was going to gain muscle, and I believed it, So I got it. Then the next month I go in, and now I know that they were getting commission on different items.
Yep.
Oh man, no, that stuff. We found out that was garbage. You need to get this. And so, same thing, man. That's the difference between a commission-based environment where there's financial incentive, or a passion-based environment where there's true, interest of people's, betterment.
Well, we'll jump around, and we will get back to the business itself.
Oh,
but just since we're on this topic, it's funny that a decade late, I'm almost a decade. I was thinking about it earlier this morning during my workout. I'm almost a decade into lifting, and I'm sure you're at a decade, if not plus now. And it's funny that the same myths about supplements are still echoed today, even with all the information on YouTube and TikTok or whatever. Because I'll see I don't get on TikTok, although I need to try and just get on it just to post and ghost, right? Just for the benefits of it.
You would be great at it. Yeah.
I see TikToks that are is creatine going to make me suppress my test, or is creatine bad for girls, or is creatine a steroid? And same thing with best protein. And it's crazy that all these years later, it's still is it going to shut down my livers, or my kidneys? Because I remember my dad would not buy me creatine for a while because he swore there was this article that was going to shut down your kidneys or something like that. It's it's just crazy years later, even with all the information out, these same salesy pitches and these warning labels get thrown out there.
I think it's a big melting pot of misinformation, especially when
forever.
People, a lot of people who don't understand critical thinking abilities, and I don't say that in a degrading way. They would much rather take the advice of their son's football coach than to actually take 10 minutes of their time to read, why something's not bad for them. And so we get it to this day. Kids' moms will ask, and we don't sell to kids who are under 18 without their parents present. It doesn't really matter what it is, but my son's 18 and he's taking this stuff. Like, is he gonna not be able to have kids one day? And I'm
it's crazy, dude.
Yeah. So
even Maddie's younger brother, he's 12 and he's starting to get into lifting a little bit because I think he saw some TikToks. Yeah. And he's not lifting much. He's plays soccer like 7 days a week. It's like intense, high elite level teams and things like that. But he's lifting on the side a little bit. And he's asking Maddie, like, if I have more than 20 grams of protein in a meal, is that like bad for me? And it's like way too in the weeds with shit, right? Yeah.
I mean, it's paralysis by analysis, right? Like and especially with the shortening of our attention spans as a society, we're hit with all this information. We don't know how to, I guess, decide which one's more important or what's the most important. So, I have kids coming in who, and I hate this, and they don't want to listen to me because I'm 26 now and I'm ancient. Yeah. They truly believe that a strong pre-workout is more beneficial for them than proper nutrition, creatine, and vitamin D. Yeah. And
gorilla mode, bro. Gorilla mode.
Oh God. Now that's a good formula. Don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, it's so much. It's putting the cart before the horse, and these kids who are, I think it's just what we're dealing with.
Well, dude, I got it with people joining the gym. Is they're like, they think one workout, one knee sleeve, one singlet, whatever, is gonna like dramatically expedite their lifting journey. And I'm like, no, dude. You might think I have a good physique now. It took me 7-8 years to build this, and I still don't think I'm shit. And each year is the smallest incremental gains. 8 years, dude. You're on your first year of lifting. You just started because you saw, whatever TikTok star,
C-bomb.
So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, C-bomb, and it's like they just don't have the long-term picture. And I'm like, this is gonna take years. And
do you think they've developed? But, do you think they're gonna? I don't know, because I don't know. I can't speak. For myself, I don't really know if I was this way when I was 16 through 18, but is the generation coming up who is introduced to TikTok and these very quick bits of rampant information?
I know what you're gonna ask. Yeah.
Like, are they going to be able to develop that bigger picture at some point? Like, is that going to happen within their maturity?
I thought about this when I owned the gym and I saw this generation coming in. Is lifting is being seen, one, as a hobby, and two, it's all about the instant PR, the instant progress, the instant transformation. So when your mind is all fixated on, well, so-and-so from Gymshark just hit another deadlift PR, or so-and-so from whatever just competed, they think they have to compete now. Everything is now. Everything is immediate. And so they don't have the long-term picture, so they don't have the patience to live for 7 years. They were like, I want it now. So they're either going to quit after a year or two, they're going to do a competition dip, or, stop after high school, stop after they get a girlfriend. We see that all the time. Yep. Once they get that, like, the initial goal. Or what's going to happen, and I have zero against steroids, but they're going to hop on steroids or PEDs or SARMs. Within a first year of lifting, they have no foundation of nutrition, no foundation of lifting, of exercise, of actually how to get the results from whatever substance you're taking.
Yep.
And then they're going to fall out of love with lifting because they saw it in this short-term sight. And the problem with that is then you stop lifting, and you have this permanent kind of change to your body hormonally that you made off such a short decision. You know what I mean? So I think the next generation is so influenced. And the other thing, too, with TikTok and YouTube now, good and bad, there's so many people talking about their PED use, which is helpful. But you have so many young kids that, A, don't understand they should wait, and B, they're just going to copy and paste whatever you're taking, whatever your cycle is. And that's not right for their body, right? And it's more accessible to them too. With SARMs, they're like just sold in open stores. You don't got to know a guy, in the back of a locker room to get something,
It's unfortunate, man. And, because then again, I remember being 17, 16 and like getting on these pro hormone websites and like on almost, biting the bullet. But I'm just glad that I had the foresight at the time to know. I'm like, wait, these old school bodybuilders, man, they've been training for 20 years by the time
Yeah.
they get Mr. Olympia. But it's unfortunate, man. And the thing is too, that irks me is, you know, being in customer service, is these kids not only lack the patience, they've somehow within a short amount of time developed such an overconfidence in that, in their abilities, dude, and in their appearance. And so these kids, man,
dude,
they will look at me as if they're like my size or bigger and start posing.
Yes.
And you know, and I'm like, dude, you haven't been training for 6 months, man. And you're trying to
me and Austin talked about this all the time. I'll get dudes roll into the gym. They're in a stringer, of course, a Naka or Gymshark, whatever it is, whatever the hot brand is. What's it? Dark Sport, right?
Oh God, yeah.
They'll come in. They're 140 pounds at most. Okay. They've been lifting for 6 months, and they spend half their workout posing or filming themselves. And it's like, dude, you don't have to flex after every set. When I came into the gym, and we probably sound like boomers, but we're both in our 20s, you know, mid-20s too. And when I went into the gym, everything was about earning the respect of the people around me. And so each workout I was going in, oh, you're good.
Oh, okay.
I was basically talking about how I was trying to earn the respect of everyone around me every time I went to the gym. I had my hat on. I was to myself. I didn't dare film a set or anything like that, which is fine if you do nowadays, but, you know, be cognizant of people around you. I was in there to work hard and earn the respect of, you know, the gym bros around me.
Exactly.
You know? And I feel like nowadays people are coming in, they're acting like you said, like there is, you know, 200 pounds jacked, flexing in the mirror, posing after every set, you know, screaming after every PR.
Right.
I saw a kid the other day, you know, I don't need to mention him. He had on like some pit vipers. He had on elbow sleeves, wrist straps, a belt, and he was going for a 225 PR on bench.
Okay.
And after he hit it, he like, you know, like let out a big like yell. His buddies were slapping his back, and it's like, dude, we that's a beginner level PR. We've all had that day when we hit 225, and it's a big deal. It's not that big of a deal though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there is this overconfidence that just I don't know. I think it is this different culture coming up that I feel like my generation was like the last of the Mohicans as far as, you know, genuine long picture thinking with lifting, you know?
Right. Exactly, man. It's I get a kick out of it every time I see, because I never even like have posed in the gym really, like, because I'm not a bodybuilder, you know, like I wanted to at one point. I've coached bodybuilders, like I love what it is. I don't know if I really like the sport.
I'm the same way.
But, you know, at the same time, I'll see these kids do a set of preacher curls and then get up and do a back double bicep or side chest in the mirror.
Yeah.
And I just can't help but chuckle. I train at a gym where 3 IFBB pros train, you know, like currently, and I've never seen them pose once. So it's just funny to, and they don't even realize that those are IFBB pros. Like the kids don't.
Yeah, I know.
You know? Like Dusty Hanshaw, I met him this morning. Well, because
like, they're not on Instagram enough, apparently.
That's true. That's true.
But anyway, back to the business side of things. As far as, so that was your introduction into supplements.
Yeah.
With opening a store, I want to ask this question for a reason.
Okay.
When you were thinking about opening up a store, did you try and seek out other supplement stores and ask them how they got started? Or did you ask, you know, how to start a business to people? Or what did you do? How'd you make that leap?
I had the fortunate opportunity to work for a supplement store while I was in college. It was called Rock Hill Nutrition. His principles and values were, you know, be honest with people. You know, people have a bad taste in their mouths from the traditional supplement store model. Educate them, you know, provide value to them. If they don't need anything, don't sell them anything. And so that was kind of my base. He helped me out with a lot of the connections. I was able to meet a lot of companies through working there, like through sales reps passing through. And so, you know, now when I got the idea to actually start my own, I was already on a kick of listening to the MFCEO podcast religiously.
Yeah, me too.
And, you know, so I listened to all of Andy's old episodes, like the first 300 of them or so. You know, more than once, actually, like just over time. And I'm like, all right, you know, I'm good at this. I literally look forward to coming and talking to people about nerdy shit all day long.
Yeah.
So I can do something with this, but we can do it differently. And so I bought this big old book. It's somewhere around here. The Young Entrepreneur's Guide to Running and Starting a Business. And I read it and took notes, kind of learned, and it just kind of compounded. Like I would get advice from my, you know, the store owner that I worked for, and my dad, I'm lucky enough to have mom and dad who started a successful business when I was
nice.
born. They started out in the garage. So, getting his advice and also reading and, absorbing information. A big...
all you can.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, the reason I ask is because I get so many people that will see a real life post about opening up a gym at 20 or opening up a gym, and they always are like, how did you come up with the money, or how did you do it? I have a similar idea. They have like 60 followers, which followers doesn't matter. Yeah. It's how you approach someone, right? Mm-hmm. And they'll DM and they'll say, hey, I want to start a gym too. Could you walk me through the process? Or here's the worst part. Never met me before, never followed me. Hey, could you hop on a call with me and walk me through how to open up a gym?
Oh God, yeah.
It's like first of all, it's not the right way to approach somebody. Okay. Yeah. Second off, you should do your own research. There's plenty of information out there as far as learning some different things, like you said, that don't apply exactly maybe to starting a nutrition store or starting a gym.
Yeah.
But there's enough out there to get your feet wet. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, there is no better experience or know-how than doing it yourself. You have to be willing to get your foot into the water, get your toes in there, and then fully get into the water and experience that, because there's so many things you're going to learn and mistakes you're going to make that you can't do until you actually do it. It's the same thing with, like, as I get more and more into ultra running, I can watch all the videos in the world on YouTube about ultra running. It means fuck all until I actually run a race and experience what it's like myself, right?
Exactly, man. And I've had a few guys come and ask me, over the past few years, like, hey, could I sit down, or I love let's go grab a coffee sometime, and I would love to pick your brain. I'm like, all right, because I have all the time in the world to give you my playbook. And even by the time you implement my playbook, if you actually do, my playbook's going to be 10 years down the road. And,
exactly.
I hate to break it to them, because when they ask me advice, I make it sound so morbid, running a supplement store.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Because I know that, first of all, they're probably not going to take any advice I give them. So I'm going to talk them out of the concept before they even waste an hour of my life. And two, especially with supplement retail, if you don't know a shit ton about the back end of the ingredients and how they're made and how they work in the body, you're not going to stand out and be different than me. And these gentlemen who asked me, they were in the same county as me and wanted to open up locally. It wasn't even about competition. It was just like, you've got to really go do it yourself and, figure out your own strategy. So...
Well, there's a lot of people that it's like you said, like 1 out of 100 of the people that ask you this are actually even going to consider taking those steps and actually putting your plan into action. So it's not about being rude, because you're just like me. You don't want to come off as rude. You don't know if that next kid really does need a little bit of advice and help. And advice is one thing, and it doesn't have to be a mutual benefit. Like, you give me advice, I give you advice. It has to be equal. But you have to show me something before I'm going to take 30 minutes or an hour out of my day to walk you through steps that might not even be applicable by the time you start your business, right? Like, if I give you information today about Instagram Reels and you don't actually implement it until 2 years later when you have the funds to start the gym, it could be totally different. You know what I mean? The industry can change so fast.
I think Andy Frisella, his statement was, the work comes before the belief. And I think that when seeking people, advice from people of influence or people that you look up to, you need to at least have some kind of tangible proof to show that individual, hey, like, I'm already taking steps of action towards it. I just would love any insight you could give me. But most of the time they don't already have that in line. They had a motivational idea, listened to Gary Vee the night before, and then they jump, run into the store the next day and, ask away. But
Gary Vee is a tough one too, because he's very... So there's so many of these people, right? Grant Cardone, Gary Vee, Andy Frisella, I feel like offers more practical stuff, but at this point it's a bit more motivational. I feel like than practical.
His stuff's a little too political for me sometimes currently.
Same. But with all of those, so many people are getting inspired to take action and to have the self-belief, which is great. But at the same time, not everyone's meant to be an entrepreneur.
Nope.
And that's the truth of the matter. And so not everyone's willing to take the risk. Not everyone's willing to, or has the creativity to separate themselves from different brands or companies and actually provide value in a different, unique way. And that's the tough pill for a lot of people to swallow, because it isn't 30 minutes of motivation because you watched a Gary Vee video. It has to be months, years, possibly even a decade before you can actually put that plan into action. Like I wanted to start the gym for like 3-4 years, and it took me years of planning. And fortunately, you know, working, and that's the other thing too. People want to ask like, oh, how did you get the funds? And they either call bullshit, or they claim I had like a bunch of loans or partners, or they act like I had like daddy's money, and they can't fathom working a side job or saving money or you know, anything like that. And you know, some people just aren't willing to do those things, and I don't know. It's just a tough pill for people to swallow in this day and age, where a lot of entrepreneurial ideal the appearance on the outside of essentially of an entrepreneur is very glamorous, right? It looks pretty. You see the anniversaries, you see the fun parts of opening a business, of having the 4-year anniversary. They don't see the really late hours. They don't see the stress of seeing the bills. They don't see the stressful phone calls. They don't see the sacrifice with relationships, skipping date nights or skipping family things, and you know, they don't see that.
It's unhealthy, and you know, as an entrepreneur, you're going to go through phases of having the best and most blissful life and appreciative and, you know, grateful. But there's also phases of true self-destruction, and not even intentional.
But it kind of ties into another point that I was thinking about, as far as the glamour or the look behind the scenes, the man behind the curtain with being an entrepreneur, is the idea of like must be nice. And I want to ask you about this because I think a year or two ago, right, you got a Tesla through the brand of like through the company, right, branded that. I'm sure you probably got so many people that are like, look at Jacob with his new Tesla and his business. Must be nice, must be easy, things like that.
That was the best and worst decision I've ever made, because of, for one, socially, people in my hometown, people that I know that meet me, they see the car, which is not that expensive, by the way. You should see how many trucks guys drop $100K on down here in South Carolina. Like, it's ridiculous. And my car's not even that, nowhere near it. But it's just the perception of it is, oh, you know, Jacob's made it. He's made it. And I'm like, and people have told me that in my face. And I'm like, and I say it politely, but, you know, don't assign me my final destination. You know, this, and that car actually is in my store's name. It's, you know,
which is different.
The company, the reason that I got that car was, for one, I drive every day from county to county, and two, I had no debt, no credit established with the nutrition store, and so Jakob Davis's credit was perfect, and it was a cosigner to TNS, and so that helped us basically get more of a better credit threshold for future projects and whatnot if we need it. But, you know, that the perception of it to the local community is like, oh, you know, big baller, big timer. I'm like, no, I've lived in a shitty trap house for 2.5 years. Like, there's literally feral roosters in the neighborhood.
I used to get it a lot with, I had some guy even kind of say it to my face. Was, you know, we were talking about, you know, he was falling in and out a little bit with lifting. He's been lifting for years. And, you know, he just was struggling to be consistent, and I was like, well, you know, I know you work like a job like during the middle of the day, but you could always try like, you know, lifting in the morning. Like, I'm trying to offer a real solution, right? And he goes, well, like, easy for you to say, you like own a gym. And I was like, well, you don't actually understand all that I do, right?
Yeah.
Like, people might see I own a gym, so it's probably easy to just walk out of your office and go work out. Somewhat, yes, but one, it's hard to separate mentally mind from working out. So my workouts suffer sometimes because I'm already stressed. I'm changing trash cans, sweeping floors, re-racking weights, doing all this stuff during my workouts. It takes away from that, one. Two, when you're at the same place every day, 365, you don't feel like being there and actually training and working. I'm sure you're that way with the store. You love the store.
Yep.
But being there all day long, you get a little sick of it sometimes. You need a break. And then the other thing people don't realize too is owning the gym isn't all that I do. And it's the same thing with you. Owning the store isn't all that you do. You know, you're creating content. I'm also editing 6-8 hours a day doing that. I'm trying to make Instagram content. I'm training, lifting, and running, like sometimes doing 2-a-days. I also have relationships like we talked about to try and manage. So, you know, if I'm getting there at like 5 a.m., back and forth after a shower, I'm back at the gym until like 6 o'clock. I'm in bed by like 7:50, so I can get up at 3:50 the next morning. I have like an hour to spend with my wife. Yeah, you know?
Exactly.
And it's just, that's what people don't see. So when they say must be nice or easy for you to say, it's they only see you at the store, right? Or they only see you at Instagram, or they only see me at the gym. And they think that's all I do, that's all who I am. Those are my only obligations, you know? So it's like this curtain view.
Oh man, yeah. Every day people approach me, and they still think that I hire somebody to do all of our video work, or that I hire somebody to run my website or my social media or anything that we do on the back end. And they don't realize that I'm the one sitting at home doing it all night, or
doing it all.
I mean, and that's not, the thing is, like, I'm proud of the skills I've acquired, but also, at some point, I will have to delegate some of them out. But people don't see it, though. You're right. They see the video and they.
Yeah, it's not a flex either. It's not us trying to prop up ourselves like, look at us, we do it all. Because like you said, there's big benefits, and it's a smart way to delegate when you can, when you financially can. But especially tying into what we talked about earlier with the entrepreneur, the wannabe entrepreneur, is there are those sacrifices that you have to make that people don't, realize, and they think it is all happy-go-lucky when they see the Tesla or they see the new equipment at the gym or they see us move and buy a house or whatever. And there's no result without sacrifice. I feel like.
Oh yeah, and based on what people see on social media too, I think that's a lot of what cultivates the perception of me and TNS. Is they see the flashy videos and the fancy, sexy music behind if we do like a montage or something, and I'm like, they're like, your business is doing good, and I'm like, well, you've never even like been in here until now. You've seen Instagram, you've seen the highlights, so it is a lot different, but.
Yes. So one question with the store and kind of like projecting with the industry moving forward is, are you ever worried about the supplement industry turning towards almost 100% e-commerce, and how do you feel like that impacts your store, or how do you see the industry moving forward?
Yeah, so that's something I've thought a lot about over the past few years with the rise of Amazon kind of taking over the supplement space and being a huge mover. So I'll start out by saying I think that there will always be a niche for brick and mortar. And I think that we see it. We're going to see it come in waves over the next, few years of people who go e-com, then want that physical, like presence. Because there's only so much information you can trust on a product review on a website, and so they could be, funded, or they could be, dishonest. So I think that with us being in our niche community of Spartanburg and Greenville, I don't worry about it so much. But I'll also, the next steps for me and my company are more so to become a brand and to become a, TNS nutrition, whatever products we actually currently manufacture. I want to lean into that. And so we're kind of we have a plan for both, right? I want to grow the supplement side for the e-com, but I also want to do things that with that e-com that provide value still. So a lot of weird projects on the back end that are written on my vision board. And
so branding is something I wrote down that I wanted to dive in. I almost don't know what direction to go to, so maybe you can steer it. Is the idea of building a brand, because I see it with I talked about it on the last podcast, so I'll kind of condense it a little bit. But basically, for the past 6 months, I've been helping as a copywriter. Never done it before, but as a copywriter for 10,000 athletic apparel brand. I don't know if you see I posted it, but anyway, point is. They, to me, have a really strong brand presence as far as not everyone knows them, but if you go to their page, they're very specific on what kind of content they'll post, their look, their fonts, their colors, what they say in their captions, everything like that, which is why they wanted me to help write some captions and emails and things like that, because I feel like I have a similar voice to it, and so they reached out to me. But I feel like it's so easy to, as a brand, especially when you're excited, you just open up your business or whatever, to just post haphazardly. But what do you think of as far as how stringent are your brand guidelines when you're posting? Do you think about, hey, what does this say? Does this fall into the emotions we want to present as a brand? Does this fit our characteristics, our color, our motto, our feeling that we want to empathize to people? What do you think about branding overall?
So when I think of branding, I think that there's a clear and defined difference between branding and marketing, right? So, and in my view, marketing is action taken to generate a return. Branding is continuous action taken to generate loyalty and following over time. Obviously, there's probably more real definitions than that, but so with branding, I like yours. Thanks, man. So like with branding, I guess my guidelines are, and I've kind of really locked in on this year, thanks to my friend Andy from Norse Fitness. You know, we were talking about both of our brands respectively, and how his is really hardcore, very, you know, mythological, very Icelandic. And you know, we were talking. I'm like,
I've seen it, yeah.
I'm like, we're kind of like just the fun brand. You know, like there's so many hardworking motherfuckers out there nowadays, and I love Axe and Sledge and a lot of the brands that are all about American work hard. Our goal is to have fun and to be vibrant and colorful and flashy. So with brand guidelines, man, I do whatever I can, obviously, to keep our Apple and Barbell present in every single piece of content. But you know, we have the thing, I don't want to say it's purposeless, the content, because there's always going to be some kind of directive or purpose generating interest. But there's not that many set guidelines with the fun brand, quote unquote, because every piece of content I make, whether it generates a big engagement from, I just trust that somebody's going to see it. And that one person's going to see it and either get some kind of value, they're going to laugh, they're going to learn. And over time, more people will compound and compound. So yeah, I don't know if I have the exact, you know, hardcore.
Well, and that's okay. I think it's a balance because, you know, I talked about Austin a lot with this. I know like a year ago when I was getting a little bit more hands-on with him, with Gym Flow, and kind of rebranding them a little bit was, you know, the idea of you set too strict guidelines, you kind of put yourself in a box. And like you said, you can't you know, hard-working motherfucker, like gritty, like Andy Frisella. You can't outdo that, you know, just some brands, you know? So you got to kind of separate yourself in a different way. But at the same time, if you have no guidelines, right, and you're just posting kind of random shit, sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's serious. Like, people don't know what to expect from you. You know what I mean? So it gets a little tricky with that. But it's just interesting because, right, you walk into Starbucks, there's a certain feeling that you get. And sometimes it's not even the content you post, but like you mentioned, the logo, the colors, the words you use, the tone of speech, the attitude, things like that. Even like, you know, with this beautiful wall that I DIY'd and things like that, I'm trying to present a certain feeling of coziness and seriousness with the black, but then there's some design to it. There's a walnut, you know, darker wood desk. Like there's a certain feeling versus if I flip the camera, you look at Maddie's side of the office, it's all white. It's tons of books. It's light. It's delicate, right? It's very different, you know?
Of course.
And it shows that sometimes branding doesn't have to be overcomplicated, but I think it is important, especially as a business owner, for those of you that are out there, or even as an Instagram. You are a business if you're posting content, right?
Yep.
That you need to think of, have some kind of consistencies with how you present yourself, because I think it allows people to kind of identify you a certain way. Because for a while I was identified as the bodybuilder. I'm sure you are in some instances too, but you're a lot more than that. So now I'm trying to present myself as this hybrid athlete, and a lot of times new people that come to my page, they say, Brock the runner, and I'm like, the runner? Okay. I'm like, I'm not even good at running, but they think I'm the runner, right? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So,
they want that.
I don't know. It's interesting. Branding's an interesting spot.
Well, it's interesting too because you know, I think about it and I don't have an exact answer for like a guideline or a layout, but you know, every piece of content I do, we have a really good schedule of flip-flop between informative, comedic.
Yeah, well, that's structured whether you mean to or not.
Right,
you know?
right. And so like typically the videos that I do on TikTok, that's where our largest following is. Just me holding the phone, right? So it's more of my own personal brand touch, but Instagram, you're going to have, it's so weird for me too, and I've been wrestling with this for the past year. We're a brand that has customers all over the world currently, but we're housed in a community that knows us as the local mom and pop shop. And
very
so,
small town feel.
And so the majority of my following is a mix between local and people all over. And so it's like, all right, well, you know, I want to make sure that I take care of the community that's treated me so well. So we do all these local events and content, and those are the ones that get the worst engagement, but generate the most people who have interest in coming in the store. Then we do a funny skit, you know, and, you know, Joe Blow conservative, super, you know, whatever down the road is offended at it. But everybody else around the world loves it. So we're in a weird spot as a brand, trying to figure out like what we are, and just leaning into that.
Yeah, well, I think that's okay. So that leads into a couple wrap-up questions I have for you.
Yeah.
Where is the nutrition store headed? Do you plan on going to, and again, this could be years down the road, but a third location? Do you see yourself, I know you touched on, hey, it's hard to just, we're not copy and pasting stores everywhere, but do you feel like you're going to take the attitude of continuing to expand in your kind of state and area, or is it going to be more a push towards e-commerce?
So we are going to expand, but it's going to be in a little bit of a different direction. So my goal is we're going to have a third store, but it's going to be more of a showroom, basically leading into our manufacturing facility here in the upstate of South Carolina. And so we are going to eventually create a manufacturing facility where we make our own products and also help out a lot of local brands and gyms and professionals, doctors that want their own line of formulations. But I really have this vision for having an awesome little storefront that is basically has a glass wall that shows people the real manufacturing process and shows people
that's good to see.
The back end of how it works, because supplements are so mystical to people that have never been in the industry or been on the deep manufacturing side. So we have an opportunity to really jump towards that. So I think really expand locally, but also the e-com and the brand side of things, where we end up making a large variety of things and products. That's where we're hopefully going. So, but
I gotcha.
Yeah, man.
Gotcha. And what's next? I was gonna say, what's next on a personal note for you?
Personal note. So my
goals outside of the store, maybe.
Well, so every year I set my own little technology goal or nerd goal for myself. And so this year's was to become a elite level graphic designer. And so by the end of this year, that's kind of something I've been chipping away at. Did my first label design on our own products and drew it all myself. Nice. So that's something that I'm really passionate about lately, is graphic design and creating, logos and helping other brands improve themselves. So I'm getting into the freelance avenue a good bit with that, with shirt design and brand design for other people. So that's something I love. I love coming home and doing, even though it does indirectly kind of work towards TNS.
It's the perfect way to do it. I mean, those are skills that are so transferable, and they're also so valuable in a gig economy, because similar to how you kind of got started making videos, when I was 11 or 12, as a kid, I had friends, but I feel like I didn't have a ton in my neighborhood, so I spent a lot of time more just independent. And so I would always be filming videos, looking up tutorials, pirating software, and learning stuff.
Me too.
And so I've had Final Cut since I was 11, and Photoshop, and just making goofy, pointless shit. And Star Wars effects and
Dude,
all this kinds of shit.
Man.
But you learn so much from doing that stuff, and it's like a way of learning without trying to teach yourself something. You're just learning by fun rather than going to a school or taking a course, right? And those skills are what I owe everything to.
Yep.
Most of my income, most of my success, because I can make my own graphics, film my own stuff at the gym, film my own Instagram content. I don't have to pay anyone. Like you mentioned, you can do so much with freelance work. And so it's something I almost want to, I want to make sure I'm still doing some of that stuff, still playing around, even if it's not worth money, because eventually, those skills are transferable. And two, when I have kids, I want to find a way to incentivize them to learn skills like this by having fun.
Yeah.
Because these can make them just as much, if not more, money, and allow them to skip college. So you know what I mean?
Exactly, man.
So
no, it's crazy you say that. I mean, we have a very similar upbringing with. I remember being, in fourth grade, and I would take my parents' webcam from their PC, and I actually put it in the window to my backyard, and we would do little king and queen skits with my siblings, and it's interesting to think about how it compounded and rolled into what we do today.
What it is today.
Because I went through a period of my bodybuilding teens where I didn't really make that much content anymore, and then I just picked it up all of a sudden, and now it's all that I do in a lot of ways. So. Yeah. Crazy. Yeah. Developmental years, they're big, man. We were lucky enough to be exposed to the early YouTube days, I think.
All right, Jacob. Well, thank you for coming on for the show. Let me know, or let the people know where they can find you. I know on Instagram, you have a lot of handles because you got your personal business on Instagram. It's at tns.ceo.
Yeah, that's me. That was my
that's you.
Arrogant stab at, I guess, forcing confidence when it wasn't there years ago. So I'm just going to call myself the CEO, and now it's stuck. It's on.
I rant. And you know, you're not in that category, but me and Austin have ranted before about people who call themselves CEO when they're like a one-person company.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, you're not an executive. There's nothing executive about your business right now.
Elon Musk even said, he's like, you know, this is not a legal title. He's like, really all you need is a president and a chief owner. But yeah, so TNS CEO on Instagram, TikTok, The Nutrition Store. We actually got that one without the LLC. Instagram is The Nutrition Store LLC, and our website is The Nutrition Stores plural .com. So we are.
And do you have a supplement company or supplement line
we do.
within your company?
Yeah, so right now it's still under the Nutrition Store. It's the Nutrition Store. Enjoy the hysteria.
Easy.
Enjoy the pumps. We will be changing that over here within the next month to enjoy the Nutra. So we're gonna have basically that side brand. So be on the lookout for all that. Okay. But yeah, thank you for having me, man. I enjoyed it. Yeah, dude.
Check them
it's
out.
Been a blast.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll catch you guys later.